I do know that for the sympathy of one living being, I would make peace with all. I have love in me, the likes of which you can scarcely imagine, and rage, the likes of which you would not believe. If I cannot satisfy the one, I will indulge the other. Hey there, gang. I'm Danny J.
And I'm Joel N. And we are
Keep on Tolkien. And that was an excerpt from a very spooky novel, The Frankenstein, which is like my favorite book.
Yeah.
It's about how alienation makes us monsters. Isn't that fun?
Yeah, it's a fantastic story. If you guys haven't read it or seen any of the million Frankenstein movies.
Yeah, a lot of the adaptations are good, some not so much.
But why are we talking about Frankenstein? Because it's our Halloween special today.
Spooky Halloween special.
Spooky. Welcome back, guys. Also, this is season 6, our season 6 premiere.
Yes, it is. Welcome to season 6. You never thought it, right? We're here.
Yeah, we're here.
We're
We're glad you're here with us. Thanks for tuning in. So another quick announcement. Don't forget to go check out our new merch store that we've got up.
Please do.
Go get your Keep on Tolkien podcast merch. Go visit keep-on-tolkien-podcast.teemill.com. That's TEEMILL.com.
And we got new t-shirt designs, and also they have told us larger sizes.
Larger sizes are coming. More merch is coming. More designs. We've more or less enlisted our friends to help us.
Yeah, all of our friends
t-shirts.
are kind of artistic people. We've enlisted all of them, including our guest today's wife. She made one for us.
Yeah, we've got a guest today.
Yeah. Coming up.
Yeah, so like we mentioned, today is our 2022 Halloween special, and this is going to be a very special episode, you guys.
Yes, this is what we are calling our friend Peter. And who in the Tolkien community is our friend Peter?
Yeah.
Well, Peter Jackson, of course.
Of course, the only Peter you would probably think of in the Tolkien community. So good old Peter Jackson, he's been a fixture in the Tolkien community for years now, ever since his beloved adaptation of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. That was back in 2001 or 2003. A lot of us grew up on that trilogy.
And what does Peter Jackson have to do with Halloween, pray tell?
We are.
Let us tell you.
That's what we're excited to tell you about today, because many people don't realize.
Yes. So Peter Jackson is considered to be one of the most talented filmmakers of our lifetime. But he didn't start at the top. No, he didn't.
No, he started way down at the bottom.
As you may or may not know, he got to start making famously disgusting horror films in New Zealand.
And when we say famously disgusting horror films,
we mean famously disgusting.
Like depraved,
yes.
Nasty, gross. Films that have made my gag reflex.
Oh, yeah. I've nearly barfed at a few of his films, yeah.
Yeah, so today we're going to explore some of the films that Peter Jackson put out that led up to his opus, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And we hope you're in for some spooky-ooky good times and some just generally disgusting shit.
Yes, it's going to be
really gross.
It's going to be so much fun, you guys.
Just toilet humor and nasty gross. It's literally
Peter Jackson
gross
is one
stuff.
of us. He's one of us.
He's one of us.
And this is getting to fulfill two dreams of mine, getting to do a podcast about horror. Because I've always, I think I've mentioned in the past, I wanted to do a horror podcast.
Yeah, that's been a dream of yours, to start up a second podcast on the subject of horror.
On
films.
the horror style.
Mm-hmm.
And finally getting who would hopefully be my co-host on the mic, Joe friggin' Vasky.
That's right. Our third person, our guest today, is Mr. Joseph.
Say hello, hey. Joseph.
Hey, hello, everyone. Joseph Vasky. I've known Danny and Joel for a very long time.
Me and Joe have known each other for like 21 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way back.
Yeah. We all went to high school together. We suffered through that shit
Yep,
together.
That's right. Those formative years.
Oh, yeah. We all have therapy bills to prove it, too.
We were also in quite a few of our amateur film productions back in the
Yes,
day.
that's Joe Vasky.
That's
He's
right.
a longtime creative collaborator. First thing we did, I think, was in 2006. I think was the first project.
Yeah,
we
if you
worked on
guys
together.
have ever heard of Off the Edge Productions, I'm sure you've
Oh,
all heard of us.
I'm sure you've all heard of us, our production
heard of us.
company. Yeah, we used to make films back in the day together. That was really fun. Yeah. But yeah, if you're a long-time listener, you've definitely heard Joseph's work on this program.
Yeah, on Keep On Tolkien podcast, he's collaborated to bring you 2 famously ridiculous sketches that we've done.
Oh yeah, I would say the 2 most ridiculous things we've ever
Pretty
done.
fun. Yeah,
That's
The
fitting.
yeah, remember last Halloween special?
that's right.
You actually, I think, came up with the idea for the Ouija board interview, where he
Yeah.
was like, because
With
I was
Karen
like, yeah, we
Winfonstadt?
wanted to do this interview, but she's dead, and he's like, how about you do it? Just pretend with a Ouija board, and I was like, perfect.
And that's how we did the Karen Winfonstadt Ouija board interview that turned into a satanic possession by
Oh yeah,
Mickey Mouse or something.
yes.
By
Oh, that
Walt
was-
Yeah.
Disney.
What do you have to say about that experience of writing that with me?
I guess it's pretty typical for.
Pretty
We write a
typical
lot
for
of very ridiculous things.
very strange shit,
which,
And then the holiday special, you remember that? It all rhymed.
yes.
That
yeah,
was
that
fun.
which was harder than I thought it would
Really
be.
hard, yeah, and it didn't even. It wasn't on beat rhymes. It was just like kind of off center rhymes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The most fun though. That one was really fun. I remember doing that.
that was fun. But Joe, you're not only a huge horror film fan and a bachelor's of in film, by the way, guys. Right?
Yep. Graduated from Minnesota State University Moorhead. So I'm not going to hold that over you guys, but
Yeah.
if we ever disagree at any point, the audience should just remember that I
That
did spend
he-
years studying the art of film.
Yes,
Yeah,
Danny
just
and
keep
I-
in mind, as long as one of us here has spent years
And
academically studying.
tens of thousands of dollars as well.
Yes,
Tens
that
of
as well.
thousands. Yeah, Danny and I went to lowly community
Community
college.
college, yeah.
If any of you out there went to Inver Hills Community College in Inver
Shout out to
Heights,
Inver
Minnesota.
fucking Hills.
Inver
Yeah.
Hills was a great community college.
Oh yeah, some of my favorite. You actually went there for
Yeah,
a
I
year.
did go there for a year
Motherfucker.
too. So I
Yeah.
sort
Yeah.
of I got the experience.
Yeah.
We were all there for a little bit.
Yeah, we were there for a long time.
I
Mostly
conveniently
mostly just getting stoned and going to classes together.
Pretty much.
for a
Yeah.
semester. Me and Joe had a few classes together.
I
one year.
conveniently lived like 4 blocks away from that college. My parents still
Oh, yeah.
do actually,
Yeah.
so I was able to just like get up, walk to school. Like
Yeah,
it was pretty convenient those days. Oh, the college days.
hell yeah. Diddle diddle diddle. Let's go back to the present. Joe,
Yeah, back on subject.
Joe not only is a huge film student, but he loves horror films, and he also loves Peter Jackson movies, and he's equally a Lord of the Rings trilogy nerd.
Yeah, he also grew up on that good old Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings trilogy back in the day.
Oh yeah, I've watched it with him several times.
Yeah, that's how Danny and I bonded in
In like seventh grade.
Yeah,
Or, no,
elementary.
I suppose that was like sixth grade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was elementary school when I think we both had read the books, and then in
Yeah.
high school when we were huge movie fans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me and Joe, listening to me and Joe watch Lord of the Rings. I remember before we went to watch The Hobbit, this is a sad story now. Before we went to see The Hobbit movie, we sat and watched The Lord of the Rings, and we were literally like, every shot, we were just like, this is just fucking perfect.
This is amazing.
Oh my
Every
God.
shot is a work of art. Look at that camera.
Yeah, look at this. I remember when the ring drops on the floor, we're just like, oh, just
So cool.
amazing.
The
Yeah.
magnets they used for
Yeah,
that scene. And
so
like
cool.
Really every scene in that movie was a work of art.
But yeah, so Joe loves Peter Jackson and Lord of the Rings, so he's going to be qualified to talk about both of these things.
More than an appropriate guest for today's subject.
Bachelor's degree. Also one in sociology too, so if we come up with anything in that field as
Yeah.
well.
I can also help with that.
Yeah.
So let's touch on today's subject then a little bit. Who is Peter Jackson, for those of you who may not entirely be familiar with him? So he's an Academy Award-winning director from New Zealand, and his full name is Sir Peter Jackson.
Yes, indeed. He's a Knight Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit since 2010, and also a member of the Order of New Zealand since 2012.
Yeah, he was born on October 31st, 1961 in Wellington, New Zealand. So his
And
birthday...
what does that mean? What does that mean? If you're listening to this episode when it drops, which we know you all are,
Yeah, yeah.
it is Peter Jackson's birthday today. Happy 61st birthday to one of our favorite motherfuckers in the world.
Can't believe he's
Happy
already
birthday.
61, man.
Yeah, because he's like a Gen X director.
And
you
having
know?
a birthday on Halloween is awesome.
So sick.
Yeah, I wish,
so sick.
I wish
Yeah.
my birthday was on Halloween.
Oh, could you imagine?
We all
the
actually,
parties?
so all three of us went to high school together. We collectively have some high school friends whose birthday was on Halloween.
Yeah, they were
And
twins.
They were twins, yeah.
Yeah.
So their birthdays are pretty fucking awesome. Shout out to Phil and Steve.
Yeah, Phil and Steve. We know they listen to the podcast.
Oh yeah, we
I'm
know.
sure they do.
We know you're listening.
Steve's a nurse, healthcare hero.
Yeah,
He is a healthcare hero.
he is. He's always been a hero in my book.
Oh yeah, miss you, bro. We used to make
Yeah,
grilled,
miss you,
we
bro.
would we'd make grilled cheese and tomato soup together all the time when we went to Inver Hills.
Yeah. Well, back to Peter Jackson. So, his parents were immigrants from England. Joan Ruck, who was a factory worker, and William Jackson, a wages clerk.
So some of Peter Jackson's influences. He has said in the past that his favorite film is King Kong. I think he said that pretty definitively, right?
Oh, yeah. That's well known to be his favorite film.
Yeah, so 1933 pre-code monster movie features some groundbreaking special effects for its day by Willis O'Brien.
And that pre-code shit, that means it's before they start censoring the shit out of movies.
Yeah, so the
And
original King Kong.
Yeah, we're all very good fans of before they start censoring movies.
Mm-hmm. Then you could put anything you wanted in a movie. It would all flow well.
So this movie's more violent than you think it would be. I think there might be. Is there nudity in the original King Kong?
I don't remember, honestly.
There might be.
I think it gets a little racy. I think
It gets
there's
pretty
I think there's
racy.
like some cleavage and shit. Which is essentially nudity for 1933.
Yeah, 1933.
Yeah, for the time.
But Willis O'Brien, great special effects. It's known for his incredibly complex stop motion animation sequences.
And Peter Jackson used his own models to make his own version of the stop motion sequences of King Kong at the age of 9. And his dream to make his own version would come true in 2005 when he released his remake of King Kong.
Yeah.
But prior to this, I had no idea about his dreams of King Kong and making that stop
Isn't that
motion at the
funny?
age of 9. He truly loved that film.
Yeah.
Clearly.
What do you? Let's just a second. How do you feel about 05 King Kong?
I love King Kong.
So do I.
Even though I know it gets hate.
It gets a
People say
lot of
it's-
shit.
People say it's too long. People don't like Jack Black. I thought Jack Black was great in it.
I think it's a great adaptation.
When I originally saw that film, so that was what, like middle school for us or like late grade school?
Mhm.
So the bug pit scene,
Gross.
that scarred the shit
When
out
that
of
dude
me.
gets eaten by like that lamprey thing, you
Slowly.
can just hear him, and
Yeah.
then he stops screaming because it goes over his fucking face.
Yeah, so
That's
the bug
Andy
pit
Yeah.
scene stayed with me for a long time from
Yeah,
that
dude.
movie.
So yeah, that King Kong, it's 05. We endorse. KOT endorses 05 King Kong.
Yeah, one of Peter Jackson's dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's like an old-fashioned epic film almost, like something you'd see back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt like one of the old-fashioned films that they kind of featured in that movie. It was about making an old-fashioned movie.
Yeah, which is even more fun. Movies about making movies are always great movies,
Mhm.
in my opinion. Yeah, and Joe, you used to make your own stop motion films when you were younger, right?
Yeah, I'd use Star Wars Legos, and it was like with the VHS camcorders.
Oh, you did it with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
camcorder?
Yeah. So if you fucked up, it was the whole thing
Was trash.
There was,
Yep.
yeah, it was just live editing.
Yeah.
It was live
like
on
George
camera.
Malay, before
Yeah.
editing, yeah. But yeah, we all really love stop motion as well, and King Kong. Let's get into some more influences, guys. We can't talk about Jackson and stop motion without talking about Ray Harryhausen. If you've ever heard of this dude.
Oh, yeah. So Jackson was also highly influenced by other stop-motion animation films, mostly by Ray Harryhausen. And if you haven't ever seen any of this old footage of like the old monster films,
You've
most
likely
people
seen, yeah.
most people have likely seen something by Harryhausen.
Yeah, somewhere in some public domain shit you've seen.
Jason
You've
and the
seen some-
Argonauts,
Jason and the
Clash of the
Argonauts.
Titans,
Yeah.
old Sinbad movies.
Mm-hmm. You've seen him around in the cultural ethos,
Yeah, he's arguably one of the greatest stop-motion artists of all time.
for sure.
I like to. He always. I was watching some clips earlier, and he always gives his monsters personality
Mm-hmm.
and humanity, which is, I think, something that Peter Jackson does with all of his villains
Oh,
and
totally.
monsters.
100%.
And sometimes they're like sort of like how Guillermo del Toro does it too, where
Yeah.
sometimes the monsters are more human than the humans.
The humans in the story, yeah, 100%.
And I
Shape of Water, right?
Shape of Water, Academy Award winning Shape of Water.
Hell yeah.
I love to talk about Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson does such a good job with the orc characters. Like
Oh,
even
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
some of the orcs just have one line.
And you remember it for the rest of your days.
Yeah, the looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
Yeah.
Is a classic.
I love the Gothwag one. The age of men is over. The time of the orc has come.
Classic.
Classic.
I like to even some of the like I always remember that Uruk-hai that just takes all of the arrows from Legolas.
Yeah. Bring him down.
And he
Yeah.
doesn't say anything, but you're just like, he just keeps on trucking like
Dude,
an
after
NFL
that
running
second
back.
hit, at the second hit, he kind of like, like shakes it
Yeah,
off.
he just shakes it off, keeps on trucking.
Oh,
on
during the
going.
Helm's Deep scene when he's
Yeah.
he's kamikazing the wall. Yeah,
Yeah,
that guy
yeah.
takes 2 or 3 shots.
2, one in each shoulder, too.
Yeah, and he just keeps going. Aragorn's like, bring him down, bring
Remember,
him down.
I think the first one was also the left shoulder. Remember, we talked about this.
left shoulder,
The left shoulder.
the always survivable wound.
Yeah.
Even like the Balrog people, just that scene with Gandalf is so good, and it doesn't say a word.
Yeah,
Peter,
the Balrog is its own scary character, and it never speaks a word.
Yeah,
You're
it
right.
doesn't need to.
It doesn't need to.
It reacts to what Gandalf says, and that's kind of enough.
Yeah, it bulks up that time. It goes.
this is Mouth of Sauron too in the extended cut. That's great.
Mouth of Sauron's one of my favorite characters. I love
Oh
him.
yeah, I love the behind the scenes with the Mouth of Sauron, where
Yeah.
originally you find out that they had the mouth going like vertical ways. Like that was really
That would have
weird.
been fucked.
that would have been really weird.
So yeah, we really love all the non-human characters in Jackson films, right? Let's get into some of the comedic influences of Peter Jackson.
Yeah, something quite notably that I'm sure a lot of our audience will be able to relate to: Monty Python.
Monty Python, of course, the wildly famous and influential comedy group.
Yeah, they're known for the series Flying Circus, Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Life of Brian, and of course, The Meaning of Life.
Yeah, and this can be clearly seen in the absurd but still witty humor in Peter Jackson's films.
Of course, it's always kind of smart humor.
It
You know?
is smart.
It's
Yeah.
very, very absurd, though.
It's very
as,
weird.
as we'll talk about, I'm sure.
Yeah. Let's get into the first guy here. This is a filmmaker that is very close to everyone's heart here.
Big influence on Peter Jackson.
Big influence. This is,
Big
of course, you literally cannot talk about Peter Jackson without talking about this dude, Sam Raimi.
That's right.
Mhm.
So Jackson was highly influenced by Sam Raimi's Evil Dead trilogy, and that consists of Evil Dead from 1981, Evil Dead 2 from 87, and the third film, Army of Darkness, in 92.
So let's just, 30 seconds or so on the Evil Dead trilogy. Greatest zombie trilogy ever?
Yes. The only reason I'm hesitating is like Night of the Living
The Dead
Dawn
trilogy,
of the
yeah.
Dead,
I know, that's why I'm
but
asking you to pit those two against each other.
Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness are just so much fun.
Yeah.
Bruce Campbell's so great.
I know.
I might give it to the Evil Dead trilogy.
Ooh, controversial opinion. Okay.
Ooh, all right. Hot takes. Hot
Yeah.
takes.
But have you seen all these ones? I think I've watched Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 with you, right, Joel?
No.
No, you've never seen Evil Dead 2?
I don't think I've seen any of the original Evil Dead movies.
Oh no,
Oh.
we've watched the remake together.
I've watched the remake.
Shout
of
out
Evil
to
Dead.
shout out to the Fede Alvarez fucking remake.
Yeah, that was
So
recently
good.
in the 20-teens. That was
It's 2012, I think.
that was a
That's how old we are.
fantastic remake. That feels way more recent. That's almost 10 years ago.
Because we're old.
Wow.
Yeah, because we're
Holy
old.
shit,
It's
okay.
2013 actually.
Oh my god.
But yeah, shout out to that one. Really, really good. But let's talk about Army of Darkness specifically. So this is there's a few explicit homages of Army of Darkness in the Two Towers, actually.
Yeah, so one that everyone will be familiar with, Legolas riding the shield down the stairs during the Battle of Helm's Deep while he's using his bow and he's shooting orcs.
Mm-hmm.
That exact bit, that was taken right from Army of Darkness. Ash, played by Bruce Campbell in that movie, he does that exact same thing in the final battle scene in Army of Darkness.
Yep, just slides down the stairs on the shield. In the extended Two Towers, there's actually a scene where Saruman is mixing gunpowder and Wormtongue comes to look at it holding a candle. And Saruman just, without a word, slowly moves the candle away from the bomb. This is the exact same bit done in Army of Darkness when Ash is mixing gunpowder. In the medieval, people don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, so the Evil Dead trilogy is widely known for its unique low-budget cinematography and gore.
Hell yeah.
And the Evil Dead films are fantastically fun, frightening, and hilarious and clever. and they had a huge influence on Peter Jackson.
Yeah, these films are so much fun. I love them.
It's just watching Sam Raimi movies and then some of the early Jackson movies. It's almost like a Looney Tunes episode.
Oh yeah, for
it's
sure.
just slapstick.
Yeah, yeah, fucking splatter Looney Tunes. Yeah.
And he loves too the like I always think about the Raimi shots in the forest in Evil Dead of like the creatures, the ghost, and Peter Jackson loves that shot where just the camera's always moving, it's frantic.
There's a lot of that in film we're going to talk about soon here. Yep. Yeah, same frantic camera movements that Raimi uses, and he uses them in Lord of the Rings too, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah. So you'll see that a lot of the things he learns here from his influences made it into Lord of the Rings as well. Let's talk about so Peter Jackson is a master of gore. Let's talk about some of the gore influences here. And of course, you can't talk about gore in film unless you talk about Tom Savini, who is just the man. Tom Savini is just the man. We could talk about this dude for hours. In short, he's a special effects legend. Best known for gore effects. Let's go through this list.
Yeah, so he's best known for his gore effects that he did in Dawn of the Dead from 1978.
Fantastic.
Martin, that was also in 78.
Fantastic.
Friday the 13th from 80. Maniac in 80.
The Burning in 1981, which I just watched last week. Very good. Jason Alexander, the guy from Seinfeld, plays a teenager in that movie.
For real?
Is he actually a teenager, though?
Too. Yeah, it's really funny. No, he's not a teenager.
He's not. He's too old.
He's way too old to be a teenager.
Okay.
So The Burning, we got The Prowler, Creep Show, Day of the Dead, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I have seen each and every one of these movies, and they are all worth watching and all have fantastic gore.
Yeah, so ultimately, the takeaway, Savini, he's widely considered the godfather of gore.
Mm-hmm. And you can't talk about Tom Savini without talking about the next dude.
Yeah, that would be George A. Romero. That's a name that I feel like a lot of people recognize.
A lot of people should recognize this dude.
So Romero has many great horror films, but he's most famous for, like we mentioned earlier, the Dead trilogy.
Yes, and that's, of course, with the groundbreaking film, literally changed the face of the earth film, Night of the Living Dead from 1968.
We watch this film every year at least once.
Every freaking year. It's
usually in October.
Yeah, it's so good. So amazing. A lot of great social commentary for its time. Joe, what do you think of Night of the Living Dead?
I was just thinking, now I'm rethinking if I do rate the Evil Dead trilogy over. Now that I'm looking at it in the face,
exactly.
I'm having a hard time.
It's hard.
No, because Night of the Living Dead is amazing. Social commentary. Same with the Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead is my depression film. And then the last one we didn't mention, Day of the Dead from 1985.
Day.
But Dawn of the Dead 1978 is my depression film. When I'm having the worst day, I pop on Dawn of the Dead and just have a great time.
Have a great, terrible time. You know that we've always said when things are good and sad, we say the term good and sad a lot.
Good and sad, yeah. It's a good and sad one.
We love certain downer films. It's true.
Yeah. Yeah, and these last two films, Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, coincidence, collaborations with Tom Savini.
And can I just, going back to Savini quick?
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Maniac, you should.
I just told you to watch it this season, and he finally watched it. I fucking love that you did. I love Maniac.
Maniac's a great movie.
From 1980.
Joe Spinell is so good in it as the psychopath, as the
Joe
Maniac.
Spinell, one of the great character actors of all time. He's in, he has bit parts in Taxi Driver and The Godfather. He's Willie Chi-Chi in The Godfather, if that means anything to you guys. But yeah, that movie rules. Maniac. I highly recommend that film. And Martin as well. Martin is one of my favorites on that list.
I remember seeing Martin. That shocked me.
Martin rules. It's a vampire movie?
Question mark?
A vampire question mark?
To hype up Maniac one last time, Tom Savini blows his own head off
in
with
the
a
movie.
shotgun in the movie.
And they did it guerrilla. Did you know that? They had no permit to do that. They just did it in a back alley. And then Tom Savini threw the shotgun in the trunk of another car. The car sped off and then he ran.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of scenes in that movie where I was sitting there going, did they actually get a permit for this? Or is it just
it's
3 in the morning
guerrilla.
and they're...
Yep. Yeah, they talk about that in the Joe Bob episode. By the way, we're all disciples of Joe Bob Briggs.
Bob Briggs, Last Drive-In?
Yeah, Last Drive-In. He's our god. But he showed that movie, Maniac. Check that out.
So let's jump to our next influencer on the list. That would be Hammer Studios horror films. Big influence on Peter Jackson.
And this, of course, is a British horror studio known for producing the Christopher Lee Dracula films. No surprise.
Yeah, but
Pour 'em on.
And that spawned 9 total films, but 7 of them star Christopher Lee. And we got those in order for you.
yes, we've got Horror of Dracula, Dracula, Prince of Darkness.
Dracula has risen from the grave. Taste the blood of Dracula.
Scars of Dracula. Dracula AD 1972. And this one's my favorite title, The Satanic Rites of Dracula.
The Satanic
I've seen
Rites.
one of these movies. I've seen Scars of Dracula.
I don't think I've seen a single one.
Yeah, we should check them all out because they're supposed to be fun.
It is
Shout out.
spooky season.
Shout out to Peter Cushing. I'm sure he's in a lot of these
He's
movies.
in the two that Lee is not in. Cushing is in one of those.
So let's jump back into today's subject. So for today's episode, now that we've talked about Peter Jackson, who he is, and some of his influences, a lot of his influences, today's proper subject is going to be a list of 5 films of Peter Jackson's that led up to the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
This is going to be a hell of a ride, guys.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun ride. Remember, this is the Halloween special, so they are going to be weird. They're going to be gross.
They're going to be weird. They're going to be gross, macabre, spooky, ooky, all that fun stuff.
If you haven't realized by now, Peter Jackson is a depraved prevert.
He is a prevert. I would say he's a prevert. He's our prevert, though.
We love him.
I respect Peter Jackson too because in a lot of these movies he kind of lets you know within the first 5 minutes if you're gonna like it or not.
Yep.
He gives you a taste right off the bat.
Right off the bat, if
this
you
is gonna
can't
be
handle
the movie
it.
for you or no.
Yep, exactly. So the list, let's go through the list, and then we're going to go through each individually. We got Bad Taste, 1987. Hell yeah.
Is that one of his earliest movies?
That's his first feature length.
first feature length. Okay.
Yeah. Meet the Feebles from 1989.
Dead Alive, 1992.
Which is known to a lot of you listening, the rest of the English-speaking world, as Brain Dead, 1992.
Which probably is a better title.
Is a better
than
title,
Dead
and we're
Alive.
going to try to say Brain Dead instead of Dead Alive because most of the world knows it by Brain Dead.
Okay.
And then we got Heavenly Creatures from 1994, which we all just recently watched together and all fucking love.
Mm-hmm. And then Frighteners,
Classic.
1996.
Classic.
Classic film.
the most family friendly film on this list.
Yes.
Which is still rated R.
Yeah, which is still
somehow rated R.
still not very family friendly.
Yeah. No, and we'll get into it. Yeah, none of these films are family friendly at all. Let's get into the very first one where it all started, baby. Bad Taste.
Bad Taste. So this was huge in Peter Jackson's film career because, like we said, it's his first one.
Mm-hmm.
His first major film. It was released on December 11th, 1987 in New Zealand, and it wouldn't be released in the U.S. until 1989. A couple
We
years
had to
later.
wait. And I remember this movie haunted me in the horror section because of the cover with the alien on it. I always remembered that, and I was always like, what is that movie?
yeah.
But the plot, simple one for this one, guys. Aliens invade a New Zealand village, and they are intent on harvesting human meat for an intergalactic fast food restaurant chain. That's
Yeah.
right. You've heard it right.
It's kind of a quirky storyline.
Yes.
Very simple.
Very simple storyline. This is the shortest one of the outline. It's just like 2 sentences. So let's say a little background on this film. So this was originally conceived as a vampire film called Curse of the Gravewalkers, which in New Zealand would be known as Kiss of the Gravewalkers.
Kiss of the Grievewalker.
But that was a Super 8 film, and it kind of evolved into this idea to Bad Taste.
Oh, okay. So Peter Jackson, he filmed Bad Taste essentially every weekend over the course of 4 years. It was like his weekend project.
And it was shot on a 25-year-old, at that time, 16-millimeter Bolex film. Joe, just a second here. How does that make you feel?
I feel like I appreciate it more.
Yeah, because we actually, you guys may not know, we did a 16-millimeter film, and it was real hard, wasn't it, Joe?
Yeah, it was an all-day affair for what I think the total runtime is a little over 3 minutes.
It's a little over 3 minutes, and I think it took us about 15 hours to shoot all together, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because every single shot you have to measure
Everything's
the
manual.
lighting. You have to, everything's manual. And then the scariest thing is you don't know how it turned out until you get the footage back.
Fuck you until you get the footage back. Yeah, you have no idea what that shit looks like.
Right.
As a funny aside about that experience, on top of just the overall difficulty of doing that in a tiny Minneapolis apartment,
This is funny.
we had we filmed it on at a friend's apartment, and they had 2 neighbors who liked to come over and smoke in the friend's apartment.
Yeah.
So they periodically would bang on the door and come in for, I would say, like 5 minutes just to see what we were doing.
Yeah, and they'd be like, "No, we can't smoke yet. Okay, we're gonna leave." And it would just be like every hour, this checking, "You guys done yet?"
Yeah, and it literally continued all day, and I felt like Richard Jenkins in Step Brothers,
Yeah,
where he just yells at John C. Reilly to shut the fuck
yeah,
up.
shut the fuck up. Yeah, that's my favorite. Shut the fuck up in cinema, by the way. Thank you for bringing that up.
It was rewarding though. It was a rewarding experience.
Yeah, and if you want to check it out, we'll post it in the Discord or something. It is on YouTube, our 16mm short. It's pretty cool. It's really violent. If you like that.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It was it's just an experience to have that. It's cool.
Yeah, 16mm Rolex, really, really difficult camera to use. Not by standards, but by me and Joe standards.
Yeah, I guess.
The initial cost. So let's go back to the film. The initial cost of Bad Taste was $25,000.
Yeah, and this was actually fronted by the New Zealand Film Commission.
And that was Peter's money, I think.
Oh, so Peter contributed 25,000.
Right.
Okay, so the New Zealand Film Commission contributed 235,000.
There you go.
Okay.
To complete production, because it had taken so long originally.
Yeah, he'd still be working on that if they.
Yeah, at that pace. Yeah.
Yeah.
So can we just take a second here and to talk about the New Zealand Film Commission? Like, this is actually government straight up investing in its people, guys.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a socialist program feeding money into the arts, and look how it fucking paid off.
Yeah, this funded all of Jackson's early films.
The government funded these disgusting little horror movies, and now it's the #1 film location on the planet.
Yeah, who knows if Peter Jackson ever would have become big enough to be chosen for something like Lord of the Rings.
If the government hadn't invested in its people.
If the government of New Zealand hadn't invested in his weird-ass little films.
I hate to say it, guys, but without socialism, no Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and just look at what Peter Jackson and Lord of the Rings has done.
Yeah, come on, guys. New Zealand Film Commission, let's give them a hand.
Yeah, oh yeah.
There'd be a Lord of the Rings. It would just be like Brett Ratner's Lord of the Rings.
That's what I'm saying. We were earlier today. We were joking like, who the fuck would have done the movie, and then we realized that Brett Ratner was really famous at the time. And
Bryan
we were like,
Singer.
Yeah, or Bryan Singer. Could you imagine Bryan Singer's Lord of the Rings? Bryan Singer's not a good person, by the way. Google him before you watch his movies.
Don't watch X-Men anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no.
What I thought was super funny is that so Peter Jackson made pretty much all of the costumes, makeup, and weapons, and they baked the alien masks in his mother's oven.
Which is why they have flat faces. Did you know that? Because the oven wasn't tall enough.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
And then the guns were either old World War II era weapons or homemade from recycled materials. Most were not operational. And this was really cool, I thought. So the actors simulated the recoil, and then holes were poked in the film to create the muzzle flash.
Brilliant.
Yeah, some very simple,
Brilliant,
basic effects.
simple effect.
And that probably took quite a bit of time to do.
Yeah. You gotta like poke a hole every time they like jerk their gun back.
Yeah. So, okay, let's general discussion time. A few minutes here on Bad Taste.
So the discussion topics. Let's start off by talking about costume and makeup. Considering this was something that he fucking did on his weekends,
Yeah.
I was still pretty impressed. I mean, it's obviously very low budget, but still.
Oh, yeah, it's cool. Like when Peter Jackson, who also is a character in the film.
He's two characters.
He's two characters in the film, but his head splits open. And
he falls down the hill and he cracks his head open.
And apparently if your head is cracked open, as long as you hold it together, you're fine.
Yeah, it's like his quirky moment where he takes this like flap of his skull.
Yeah.
And
so
like
funny.
Closes it so his brain's not exposed anymore, and like he wraps a belt around his head for a while.
There's so many good bits. I love what he says too. He's like, "I'm a Derek, and Derek's don't run." It's like, what does that even mean? There's just so many nonsense lines in this movie. It just makes me laugh.
It's very rough around the edges, but I kind of you can really see Peter Jackson. Like you can
see his style emerging in this film. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it coming out. I don't know why these gross liquid scenes always stick out to me. The puke scene
Oh,
in
the
this
puke
movie
scene.
is
Yep.
so gross.
So
Yep.
just to set there's a scene where the aliens are all getting together. One person is pretending to be an alien by just putting on one of those shirts that they wear.
you should. It's like all denim, right?
Yeah,
It's
they all
just-
wear denim.
It's all denim, yeah.
They're like blue shirt. If you're wearing a blue shirt, you're an alien. And they all spit up, or the one dude like spits vomit into the bowl,
and then they all drink it.
and they all drink it. And my favorite bit ever is the dude who's not an alien drinks it, and then he like goes to pass it back, pulls it back for another sip.
yeah,
Like,
it's
it,
like
whatever
this
it
big
was, it
buildup.
must have been good.
It's like this build-up moment, like, oh, gross, he's a human, and this is so gross. He's gonna hate it. How is he gonna pull this off? And then he takes a sip, and it's like delicious.
Yeah, must have been good.
It looked like fucking like Lucky Charms
That's what it looked like.
in
Yeah,
green milk or something. It was.
it was not good.
It was kind of gross.
Not
looking,
good.
Yeah.
It
There's
also.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Peter Jackson just always. He's so good at making you laugh, but in disgust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many moments
There's so
where
many like I don't know if you can gag and laugh at the same time, but that's like what you do in a Peter Jackson movie.
Yeah, so let's touch on the story and the plot. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, it's pretty simple, pretty basic.
simple plot. Yeah, aliens invading. There's like a group of armed army people that are resisting them.
It's what, like four friends,
Four dudes in a car.
in a car.
Yeah. And one of them is Peter Jackson, who tortures himself and then beats himself up in one scene, which is really funny.
he plays himself where he plays two characters, and both characters.
Peter
meet,
Jackson with a beard.
and then Peter Jackson shaved.
Yeah.
And Peter Jackson shaved beats up Peter Jackson with a beard and like
Yeah.
throws him over a cliffside and hangs him by his leg or something.
And tortures him with a
Torture-
bayonet.
and tortures
yeah.
him, yeah, with a bayonet. That's right.
Yeah. Great shit. Yeah. The humor in this movie as well is just like it's all over Peter Jackson. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's just the most disgusting humor. Yeah, that belly laugh and gag at the same time, you know.
and then
There's
even
a lot of good head explosions in this one, a lot of good headshots with guns.
Yep.
Yeah.
the final death too in outer space.
Oh, yes, Peter Jackson does one of many birthing scenes. This is one of birthing scenes where he births himself out of an alien with a chainsaw, you guys.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
he jumps. He like goes through someone's head to crotch with a chainsaw.
just with a
That's right.
chainsaw, and then comes out, and then he goes,
It's
"I was
r-
born again," or something like
It's
that.
really graphic and really
Yep.
fucking
a
gross,
great
you
way.
guys. I can't even describe.
Yeah, guys, check out Bad Taste, and you can really see the projection to Lord of the Rings in this film, which is funny because it's so raw, it's so old,
So
you know?
old, so low budget, so raunchy, but you see it.
It's
You see that kind of just like that feeling that you get when you watch a Peter Jackson movie, you know, like it's there.
which is impressive because it was basically just him and his friends making this.
Yeah.
Homies making
just
a movie.
in his backyard
On the
essentially.
weekend.
Yep. So, yeah.
let's jump to the next film on the list, which
There's a soft spot in my heart for this movie.
this is a quintessential Peter Jackson film.
And this is a film, it's one of the rarest DVDs I own because it's out of print.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're going to restore it soon. It should come out soon.
This is one of the two films he apologized for when he got his Oscar, right?
Yep. Including Bad Taste was the first one. And
He
then
apologized for Bad Taste
yeah.
and Meet the Feebles.
And I think the tagline is from the people who brought you Bad Taste comes a film with no
with
taste.
no taste at all.
no
yeah.
taste at all.
which sums it up.
So we're
sums it
talking
up.
about the film known as Meet the Feebles.
Feebles. Meet the
Meet the
Feebles.
Feebles.
Not your average, ordinary peoples. Meet the Feebles.
The songs are genuinely pretty
There's
catchy.
some earworms in this. Yeah, there's some songs in it that. Yeah, what was the one we were watching earlier on YouTube? Garden of Love.
Garden of Love, yeah.
Garden of Love is a great song. Yeah.
So this was released on December 8th, 1989, and it's Peter Jackson's first collaboration with his now longtime life partner, Fran Walsh.
Yeah, and if you don't know, Fran Walsh has done from this point on everything that Peter Jackson has done,
Including Lord of the Rings.
including Lord of the Rings. Like
Yep.
they say with
She's almost like an equal collaborator.
like Ginger Rogers did everything Fred Astaire did backwards in heels. That's this kind of situation. She did everything Peter Jackson did, but she never really gets the credit for it, which is fucked up.
Yeah. So this film, Meet the Feebles, that's where that relationship started. And this movie is not really a horror movie
Per se.
per se. It is a dark comedy. Some might say pitch black comedy. And it features some horror movie levels, like just a lot of nasty,
disgusting shit.
disgusting Peter Jackson shit.
Yeah, and the cast is it is cast entirely by puppets.
Yeah, that's the quirk of this movie.
And people in animal suits for the larger characters. And yeah, seriously, no shit, guys. There's no real people in this movie.
Yeah, it's like rated R Muppets, but
Yeah.
even just nastier and grosser. And oh my God.
And we got a quote here from the Wikipedia page for Meet the Feebles, which pretty much sums up Meet the Feebles pretty well. Who wants to read this one? Do we got Joel? Joel's going to read this one.
It features Jim Henson-esque puppets in a perverse comic satire. Like Henson's Muppets, the Feebles are animal-figured puppets plus some suited performers who are members of a stage troupe. However, whereas the Muppets characterize positivity, naive folly, and innocence, the Feebles largely present negativity, vice, and other misanthropic characteristics.
Says it very well.
Very well. So the Feebles are just gross and nasty people.
It's an X-rated version of the Muppets, you guys.
Essentially, if they were all just like the worst.
Yeah, if the
people.
Muppets fucked each other and did drugs and killed each other, this would be the movie. So the plot, let's get into the plot.
Yeah.
It's a washed-up group of variety show performers called the Feebles that seek to put on one last show on live television. The real story is what happens behind the curtains. The performers and producers indulge in sex, drugs, violence, and everything from AIDS scares and drug-addicted Vietnam vet flashbacks are featured in subplots. Can the variety show go on with the disturbing shenanigans happening backstage?
And when we say disturbing, we mean gross.
Yeah,
like, doesn't
they're
the AIDS
filming a
character
porno back
die
there?
of AIDS, like really graphically?
No, he finds out it's not AIDS in the end.
Oh,
But he goes through like where he's getting blackmailed by that paparazzi fly
yeah.
that eats a piece of shit in one of the scenes. Yeah. There's a fly that's a paparazzi that is following people around that eats shit in one scene. It's awesome.
It's so hard to explain just like the level of depravity in this movie to people who haven't seen it.
It's difficult, yeah, because it's a mile a minute depravity. Like, yeah, there's like they're filming a weird porno in the background. Like, there's the rat characters like filming a weird porno, and like, yeah, what is it? The alligator, the Vietnam vet, he can't get his fix. He's a junkie. He's a heroin addict, and he's supposed to do a knife throwing act, and he actually kills somebody with a knife at one point because he's like too jonesing to do it right. But this movie is just holy shit, you guys. So Meet the Feebles had a $750,000 budget, and they used every cent. And like Joe said, the tagline, you want to say it one more time?
From the director of Bad Taste comes a film with no taste at all.
No taste
No
at
taste
all.
at all. So let's discuss this a little bit. How fucking outrageous is this movie?
So I remember when you guys showed this movie to me, it must have been like just out of high school. And this movie fucked me up. I was like, this is weird. Who would make this? What is this? What the actual fuck? It was...
I will say it's the only movie on this list that I feel like kind of dirty or filthy after watching
Oh yeah,
it.
you need to take a shower
Yeah,
after you
feel
watch
like
Meet the
need to-
Feebles.
You feel like you need to take a shower, yeah.
And it has a cathartic ending in just mass murder.
Anytime I meet like a Lord of the Rings fan or a particularly Christian person
Oh yeah, I love this. Like, have
who
you
regards
Peter Jackson as like a Christian icon?
yeah, like who holds Peter Jackson in high regard, this is the movie that I tell them about.
Check out Meet the Feebles, guys. If you think Peter Jackson is a moral, upstanding kind of person that has traditional values,
I had an old
You are
friend.
wrong.
I had an old friend who I was talking to some years ago, and he's a very Christian fellow, and he was like, I can't remember what movie we were talking about, but he was like, man, I wish they would have just gotten, like a good Christian director, like Peter Jackson or something.
like holy
And I stopped
shit.
and I looked at him. I was like, what? Like, have you seen anything he's done other than Lord of the Rings? Because he is one of the most disgusting,
He's one of us.
depraved sons of bitches.
He's one of us. He's a drive-in mutant. He's
And
a fucking.
I proceeded to tell this guy about Meet the Feebles and just watch his jaw drop. He didn't have any response. He had no idea what to say. And I was like, Peter Jackson's actually pretty gross.
Peter Jackson believes in the 3 Bs, man. Blood, breast, beasts. He loves it.
He's depraved, and he does. He's done a great job with all of them.
I think what makes it so at least for me, so fucked up is that I grew up like loving, like the Muppets Treasure Island and
Yeah.
watching all the Jim Henson
sure.
and stuff.
It kind of taints all those memories a little bit.
But like the puppets in the movie, like it's like technically it's a good movie. The songs are good.
Oh, Meet the Feebles? I think
Yeah,
it's a
Meet the
fantastic
Feebles.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would that be technically considered a musical?
I would say so. Yeah, it's probably one of my favorite musicals. It's definitely about producing a musical show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, and I'm known in the friend group for not liking musicals. That's why he's saying that, I think. But yeah, this movie, the songs in it are fucking cool. And yeah, they even do that noir scene, remember, where it's all in black and white?
Mm-hmm.
That shit's pretty cool too. I forgot about that until just now.
That's pretty funny.
That Peter Jackson, his early films are just a mile a minute, just at one
Nonstop.
thing after
Nonstop.
another.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
Meet the
just
Feebles
slapping
guys.
you in the face with like either something funny or something gross or both.
Yeah, Meet the Feebles, grossest puppet movie you'll ever see. Not really a horror film. It kind of is a horror film.
Yeah. It'll fit. It'll fit in your October lineup.
Yeah, watch it in October.
Check it
Watch
out.
it with a puke bag by you.
I would
Don't eat too much beforehand.
Yeah.
I think I would recommend maybe all of his other early movies to people before Meet the Feebles,
Before
just
Meet
in
the
terms
Yeah,
of
just
how,
to harden
how
them
fucked
up.
up it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
because I
pretty
think
off-putting.
I'd seen both Mad Taste and Brain Dead before I had seen Meet the Feebles, and I think you're right. Yeah, that's the way to go. So okay, let's move on, guys.
Yeah. Speaking of, let's talk next on our list is Brain Dead.
Brain Dead.
AKA Dead Alive.
Dead Alive for Americans, Brain Dead for everyone else.
Just like football and soccer.
And yeah, right. So this was released on August 13th, 1992 in New Zealand, and February 12th, 1993 in North America under the title Dead Alive.
Yeah, that had to, for whatever reason, they had to use that one in the U.S.
I think it was because there was already a movie in the U.S. called Brain Dead, I think.
Oh, was there? Okay.
Yeah.
So the plot of this one, there's our main character. His name is Lionel. He's a young man living in the 1950s in Wellington, New Zealand, and he has an overbearing mother,
To say the least.
to say the very least.
Yeah.
She follows her son to a zoo one day where he is on a date, and his mother is bitten by a creature called the Sumatran rat monkey. And the movie opens with a scene of them catching the Sumatran rat monkey, and it's
Which is very graphic.
It's very graphic. Again,
Yeah.
it just starts right off letting you know this is going to be a graphic ass movie.
Yep, that's your test there
Yeah.
for if you can hold on to it.
But this bite given to Lionel's mother by the rat monkey, this causes a zombie plague that spreads like wildfire to the people around Lionel, and he tries his best to cover it up. But the mess just keeps getting worse. So much worse.
And that sums it up pretty well. And what I love, little token of what do you call it, a little Easter egg, is if you look in the King Kong 2005 on one of the ships, it's one of the crates is like they bump into it and it makes a weird noise, and it's labeled Sumatran rat monkey.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, because
Can
they
I-
say it comes from Skull Island in the movie.
Do they?
Yeah, they said it
Yeah.
comes from Skull Island. Yeah.
Oh.
That opening scene you guys are talking about, I love how it I love the New Zealand zoo official who's on this island gets bitten and scratched
Yeah.
by the
Yeah.
monkey. And so they get him like away on this boat or by this boat. And then every time they find a bite or a mark on him,
They
they
chop
go
off the
they go
limb.
Zengaya.
Yeah.
And at first it's on his right arm, they chop off his right arm. It's on his left arm, they chop off his left arm, and then they see a scratch on his face.
And then and
They
then
chop
it's
off
like,
his head.
and
And then
that's
his
the
title screen,
That's
right?
the title screen. Yep,
Yep.
right there. Yep, what a film. Yeah,
That gag always got me every time. That was so fucking funny.
yeah.
Zengaya.
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 Just a little bit of background. Dead Alive / Brain Dead was a commercial failure. $3 million budget and grossed less than $250,000.
Ouch.
Ouchies.
That's rough.
It has since gained a cult following and is hailed as one of the goriest films of all time.
And when we say goriest films of all time, I don't think I've personally seen a film with as much blood.
No, there's more blood. Yeah, in this movie, there's. We'll get into it in a second. But and it's funny too, because like you're not particularly a horror dude, but you are surrounded by people that are obsessed with horror.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of exposure just through that.
Just through that, and like this is probably the goriest one you've ever seen, right? I can't. and
Probably.
I'm seasoned sick fuck, and I've never seen anything this bloody.
I've also just happened to marry a huge horror fan.
Yeah,
Mallory, my wife,
Mal fucking
literally
loves horror.
literally grew up with horror because her dad wanted to watch horror films, so she'd
Yeah,
watch them with him.
I mentioned it in my best man speech. I was like, one of
Yeah.
the things we love is, she grew up on horror, so did I.
Yeah. So again, let's touch on Peter Jackson's longtime collaborator, Fran Walsh.
Yep, second collaboration on Braindead here.
Yeah. So they spent most of the budget for this movie on the gore, and it really shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, they decided actually to shoot on 16 mil rather than 35, so they could spend more money on gore.
That's actually really funny.
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper.
So Jackson again crafted many of his miniatures that he used in this movie by hand. As we know from Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson loves his miniatures.
Miniatures.
And the climax of this movie is the infamous lawnmower sequence.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and this scene alone used around 300 liters of fake blood. For us
And for us Americanos out there, that's just shy of 80 fucking gallons.
a lot of fake blood. Like
You can tell.
That's like a big fish. That's like a bunch of fish tanks. How many?
yeah,
it's
it's
like,
a very large fish tank.
yeah,
it's a
full of
lot.
blood.
And like it wasn't like the most amazing looking blood. There was just a lot.
Yeah, I think it looks
of it.
pretty good, but it looks like it's real sticky.
Yeah.
It looks
It's
really
slippery.
wet and slippery.
We were just talking about there's one talk about Looney Tunes shit, right?
Yeah.
When he is trying to run from the zombies, but there's too much blood on the ground, so he just stays in one
He's
spot.
running in place. He's like,
He's like,
slipping.
"Choo, choo, choo, choo," and then he catches traction on the body parts, and then runs.
Oh
I-
yeah.
Speaking of Looney Tunes, I was making kind of notes throughout the movie of like Looney Tune type slapstick moments,
Yeah.
and I ended up just putting everything involving the zombie baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
The zombie baby, yeah. Okay, let's finish up this background, and then we'll get into
so
that
the
shit.
something that I thought was really cool was the creature and gore effects were done by Richard Taylor, and his first movie was a puppet maker on Meet the Feebles.
Hell yeah.
Which that's like a hell of a first movie to break
Yeah,
into the New
bro.
Zealand film industry.
Think about this, and too, Richard Taylor is also Sir Richard Taylor. He's also a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit.
Yep.
And so 2 people that worked on Meet the Feebles are knighted now.
Nice.
Like that's fucking
really funny.
wild. That's
really
so fucking wild.
He also worked on Heavenly Creatures, King Kong, and then he worked on all 3 Lord of the Rings films as a Weta workshop supervisor,
Hell yeah.
doing special makeup, armor, creature, and miniature work.
Mm.
Which I think when they knighted him, they were probably thinking more of Lord of the Rings than Meet the
You don't
Feebles.
think?
But
Probably.
You don't think, huh? Yeah. Yeah, I would say, yeah, they were like, oh, yeah, that heavenly creatures and, in Lord of the Rings were just delightful. Yeah. I don't know, heavenly creatures might be a little spicy for some, too, honestly.
It might be.
it's true.
We'll get into
For
that.
its time, it might have been actually.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, let's just have a short discussion about Braindead here, even though we could probably talk about it for fucking hours, because this
Forever.
movie is the goddamn Lawrence of Arabia of gore.
It's iconic
It's-
as hell. How
yeah.
iconic is this film?
So fucking iconic. I mean, like, there's so many bits in this film. Like, it's. I would be like, "What's your favorite bit?" But they're literally a mile a minute, you guys. Like,
There's
it's
so many.
yeah. Like, I would say my favorite scene is the graveyard scene, and then they go, "Well, what bit from the graveyard scene?"
Right.
Where
I
the
kick
dude
ass
gets
for
his
the Lord.
yeah, where the dude gets his dick ripped off, or when the priest says, "I kick ass for the Lord," and then goes karate Bruce Lee on some zombies. And rips their fucking arms and legs off and uses them as weapons.
That's
Is that what
right.
you're talking about? Or are you talking about when he flies through the air and gets impaled on the angel and then it sticks through his chest? Like, there's so many scenes. Like,
Or
where-
you're talking about like the ghost drill sergeant that lives in the graveyard that's always yelling at everybody?
that's in the Frighteners, dog.
Is that not in? Oh fuck me! God damn
Joel's
it!
getting
I'm
he's
getting my
literally
Peter
getting his
Jackson.
Peter Jackson movies mixed up.
We did watch a lot of Peter
We
Jackson.
did what
did.
in a short amount of time.
Lots
Forgive
of
him.
graveyards. God,
Forgive him. A lot
damn
of
it.
graveyard scenes. No, do you remember? That's my mother's grave you're pissing on.
Yeah.
And then she grabs his dick from the grave.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
The one scene that it's not like the grossest scene, but it always sticks out to me is when the Ladies Welfare League comes and has lunch with Lionel's
I
mother.
disagree. I think this is
Ooh.
one of the grossest scenes.
It is very gross.
But
I love how
it's the warm up gross scene.
I love
in the
how
film.
she's getting her makeup on. She's like, it's the WLWL.
W.
And she puts makeup on her cheek skin falls off.
Yeah.
Lionel super glues it back on because he's just so obedient to his mom.
Yeah.
But the the scene that really sticks out is it's a man and his wife who show up, and they bring out custard for dessert. And Lionel's mom has just this gross, like, sucking pustule
It's the
wound
Sumatran rat monkey bite.
from the Sumatran rat monkey, and she squirts pus into this guy's custard.
Yeah. And what does he say, Joe? As he mixes
eats
it
the
and
cuts.
he eats it.
He eats it, and then he says, "Rich and creamy, just the way I like it."
Yeah. And then he then goes on to insult his wife and say she never makes custard this good.
Also, just the shot of him eating the custard is just so slow,
Yeah.
and
So gross.
graphic, and just like, yummy.
Yeah.
It's just one of the things that I really found. One of the things I noticed after watching all these Peter Jackson films is it's not only his gore effects, but it's the fucking sound.
Oh yeah, the
effects
sound design are so
that
good.
go with his gore. There's so many gore, slurpy, sloppy, gross.
Yeah, agreed.
Squelching, as Netflix would say. There's so many squelching sounds.
Yeah. And the sound, shout out to the sound design of these movies. Yeah, the certain amount of gore. Does Peter Jackson have mommy issues?
You know,
I wrote that in here just because
after this movie, it made me consider.
like I have mommy issues for sure. Like, it happens to the best of us, but like
I thought you were about to say it's the best.
mommy issues are the best, dog. No, yeah, but it seems like he might, because he portrays it very I don't know, close to the hip. Like it feels like it might be about
Kind of personal.
A little personal,
yeah, a little personal.
Did you ever wonder if maybe Peter Jackson's mom ever turned into a giant rat zombie and he had to like
go
kill
into its
people with a
womb?
lawnmower and like go into the rat's womb?
Yeah, and then he comes out in another ritual birth.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. He's really all about.
He's
those,
reborn
isn't he?
again. Yeah, just like in Bad Taste.
Huh.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's what I'm saying. Mommy issues, right?
I also love how I love horror movies that give you like the most meek-mannered and just like kind of worthless protagonists.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the movie, they just turn into just like as monstrous as the creatures they're fighting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out! I put a shout out to Cold Fish in here. Cold Fish, great horror movie.
Oh my
Nice.
God.
Very nice.
Are you going to introduce my audience to Cold Fish? I don't know. You didn't ask about this. I don't know.
You didn't consult us ahead of
I
time.
mean, if you can watch Dead Alive, you can watch, or Brain Dead, you can watch Cold Fish.
I guess. Yeah. Cold Fish is a very disturbing one. It's Japanese, right?
Yep. Not to get too off topic.
Not to get too off topic. One of the most disturbing Japanese horror movies I've seen.
One other thing I just wanted to say quick too is at the very end of the movie of Brain Dead, there's probably at least 20 zombies just like invading this tiny house.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of an indication of how well because he does such a good job at kind of like spatially directing things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reminded of like the Mines of Moria breach in Fellowship where there's just like 30 orcs. It's a very small, cramped thing.
oh yeah.
But
You're
he
like,
just
how will the protagonist get out of this?
The Chamber of Mizarble fight, like the first Moria fight.
But he does such a great job at just like you always know what's going on, what
Yeah.
action is happening.
Yeah. And I love how brilliant that house party sequence is, because you get to kill all the original guests
Yep.
with zombies.
Yep.
And then all original guests reanimate to kill the rest of the guests.
Yep.
So you get a whole party full of zombies all of a sudden, and it's a brilliant idea,
Yeah.
right? And then Lionel has what we described earlier, the infamous lawnmower sequence, where he holds a 1950s lawnmower on its side and literally just runs through the crowd.
He like ropes it to the front of his chest.
Yeah.
And like walks forward.
Yeah, and it's just fucking mayhem. Like, honestly, this is on YouTube if you want to check it out.
They had like blood squirting pipes just like attached to the lawnmower, and they were just spraying
Did I tell you?
blood constantly.
I showed that scene to my therapist. Yeah.
What did they think of it?
I laughed like a madman as we were watching it,
I
but they
think
were
that
just
is one of the best things you could have possibly done
Yeah.
to allow your therapist to understand.
to understand me, right?
who
That's what
you
I
are.
figured. Yeah, I was like, if she knows this is the kind of shit that I'm into. No, they like horror too, so like they understood it a little bit.
Oh
But
my
like,
God.
yeah, they had never seen something so outrageous.
That is an outrageous scene. If nothing else, you guys have to check it out for that scene alone. It's amazing.
Yes, and one more thing. This is a love letter to Evil Dead. Yeah, would you say, Joe?
Yeah, definitely. Especially, I was really reminded of kind of Ash's character progression with Lionel.
Right. Yeah. Ash turns. He's a mild mannered kind of dude in the beginning of the series, and then he becomes the king.
cracks.
The king, baby. Yeah.
King of Kings. Have you guys watched the show, Ash versus Evil Dead?
I've watched the first, I think, season and a half. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I need to see it.
It's good. I liked it.
So let's hop to our next film on the list of Peter Jackson films that influenced The Lord of the Rings. This is a film I had never seen until recently, just when we watched it like a week or two ago.
Yeah.
And this
Same.
film...
Yeah,
Oh,
this was one
really?
that I was the only one who'd seen it.
I hadn't seen it either.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So this film is Heavenly Creatures, and this was released on October 14th, 1994. It came out on November 16th of the same year in the Americas.
Yeah. And I think this is, in my opinion, and the opinion of many people, the first film that made the film industry see Peter Jackson as a very talented filmmaker.
Yeah.
And not just a splatter guy. Because splatter's the best, but this is actual, like, high art filmmaking, in my opinion. This is the first time we see that from him.
This is a proper narrative.
Yeah.
This is a full-on Hollywood-ish style film.
Yeah, and it garnered him an Academy Award nomination for Best Screenplay, along with partner Fran Walsh.
So this film featured the debut of Kate Winslet and Melanie Linsky.
Yeah, two very prevalent actors in the early 2000s. Kate Winslet, obviously very famous.
Mm-hmm.
Melanie Linsky went on to do some bit roles and stuff on TV. You'll see her throughout the early 2000s. While not quite a horror film, Heavenly Creatures is based on a New Zealand true crime story.
Yeah, so it's definitely got some drama and some tenseness to it.
Yeah, and that's the Parker Hume murders in Christchurch, New Zealand in 1954.
Yeah, infamous in New Zealand.
You want to read the plot, Joe? Joe, what's the plot?
So the plot is the true story of two girls that develop a very intense friendship and create a fantastical fictional universe together. After being separated for their forbidden love, they develop their fantasy world so much that the line between fantasy and reality begins to blur. The girls will do anything to be together, even murder.
Murder.
Bum, bum, bum.
And so Walsh and Jackson took kind of a unique approach to the story. Instead of just focusing on the murder and the trial, they really focused on the intense relationship between Holm and Parker.
Yeah, it was a real character study on the both of them.
Peter Jackson said the friendship was for the most part a rich and rewarding one, and we tried to honor that in the film. It was our intention to make a film about a friendship that went terribly wrong. I love the scene in this movie on the playground where they're first kind of connecting with each other, and Kate Winslet's character is like, let me see the scar on your leg again, let me see it. And then she's showing her this horrible scar on her leg, and then Kate Winslet's like, oh, I have scars on my lungs.
Yeah, one of the things that the two characters bonded over was that they had spent large amounts of their childhood in and out of hospitals. One had a bone disease, and the other one had tuberculosis.
And I love Kate Winslet's so good in this movie. I love the line where she says, the best people have bad chests and bone diseases. It's all frightfully romantic.
It's all frightfully romantic. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny what Peter Jackson said about a friendship that went terribly wrong. I made Joel laugh because I described this movie to Joel as when friendship is magic goes wrong.
Yeah, I was trying to take some notes while I was watching some of these movies, and Heavenly Creatures was such a lovely movie, and I was so engrossed in it. That was literally the only note I took. When friendship is magic goes wrong, escapism plus friendship is magic equals you lose track of reality.
Well, it's a sad story too, because it's really like a beautiful relationship that these girls have.
It is.
And it's just their parents are not okay with it at all.
No,
yeah.
Right, they get a
imagine
slight,
if they were accepted. They could have been Tolkien's themselves.
Yeah, basically the parents get a slight whiff of homosexuality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're just so freaked out by it they don't even let the girls.
Yeah, this is the
see each other.
1950s in New Zealand, so not the most socially progressive era. And they get a whiff of that homosexuality, and they're like, oh shit, we gotta separate these two. And it's just like they wanted to be together. Leave them alone. They had an incredible universe that they created together, which I think is like very interesting that he chose to do this movie because it's a lot like Tolkien and his universe that he created.
Yeah,
And the
very much so.
escapism of that.
I did notice those similarities. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so an incredible amount of time and research went into this screenplay, and it had essentially fascinated Walsh since her childhood. So before us dudes get into discussing this subject, let's hear from a female perspective on a very female-driven film.
Yeah, I was excited to, when I showed this to everybody last week, to have some women watch it with us. Mallory kind of watched it. She was doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
But our production manager, Virginia, she, shout out to Virginia if you're listening.
What up, V?
What up, V? She watched it with us, and I asked her to write something up for us to read.
Yeah,
about
give us her thoughts.
her perspective. Yeah, and this is it. This film was a fantastic movie and a sad story. I appreciate that it focuses on the relationship between the two without looking at it through the male gaze, meaning that it is not overly sexualized and that their bond is more about the things that they do together, and the physical is almost an afterthought. It is about the girls and how they feel about each other. I love the parallel between the real world and their fantasy world. You can see that in the fantasy world, there is a different way and how people support them. And this is an amazing way to foreshadow the violent tendencies that Pauline, with her murdering peasants just before she is, just when she's bored. This is in direct contrast with Juliet, who wants to get their son to help so he can stop the violent tendencies when Pauline supports them. Their son then starts to make a protective role for Pauline, showing that she craves the protection of someone who looks out for her without an agenda. I agree with it that the girls were not insane and their parents would have just let them be together. This would not have occurred. Not to justify murder, but it seems wrong that Pauline's family boarded people, so I don't understand why they couldn't just board Juliet and they could be together. Overall, that is a fantastic movie, and I think Peter Jackson did an amazing job portraying the other world and the real world. Words from Virginia.
Yeah, so let's jump into a little discussion. And I think Virginia put it really well. Peter Jackson did an amazing job portraying the real world in conjunction with the secondary world, which I think is why this film was so important leading up to Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, totally. This is the one. I think people saw and were like, "Oh yeah, this guy can handle Lord of the Rings."
He can really handle a fantasy universe because when it transitioned into the two girls' fantasy, the whole scene, everything about the film changed into just this fantasy world. He did a wonderful job of portraying the fantasy.
Yeah, and I think like New Line Cinema got like excited about that. Mm-hmm. Well, especially because New Line Cinema, and I just told this guys earlier, had known about Peter Jackson because he wrote a script for Nightmare on Elm Street 6 that was never made, but is undoubtedly better than the piece of shit Nightmare on Elm Street 6 that we got. So, yeah, but that's how he got in touch with Robert Shea, who famously produced all the Nightmare on Elm Street films and also went on to produce The Lord of the Rings for New Line Cinema. Freddie brought Lord of the Rings to us. Without Freddie, there's no Lord of the Rings.
It's such a serious topic, and he showed such restraint with it.
Yeah, there's very little like of the crazy ass humor that he normally has.
Yeah, especially since we've seen what he can do.
Thinks it's funny, yeah.
But he does such a good job too with like just there's still like his humor and the tension. Like I remember that scene in the diner where this is like right before they decide that they're gonna kill
I love this scene.
Their mother, and then her mom's looking at what, a dessert or something.
Some kind of English people eat like cream cake or whatever. Yeah.
She's like, "Have one, mommy. Treat yourself."
Yep.
Yeah, and she just stares at her while she eats it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like a last meal sort of, and her mom's like, "Oh no, I shouldn't." And it's
treat yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, that was almost kind of fucked up too. It was like
I thought that was pretty fucked up too.
Pretty dark.
And then at the very end, they're walking in this forest with their mom, and there's just so much tension because the mom's just blissfully
they're
ignorant.
at like they went to like a national park for like a walk or something.
There was like so much nonverbal acting going on there.
Yeah.
It was really good.
And the murder is fucking brutal. We watched the uncut version, and I think in the uncut version, the murder's a little bit more brutal. Because I did not remember seeing that many whacks when I was watching.
A lot of whacks.
Yeah, and there's they kill her with a brick, and it's pretty fucking violent.
It's loud, it's violent, it's traumatic.
Yeah, and it shatters this whole fantasy world that they built so long to build. It took so long to build.
Yeah, the fantasy actively shatters as they're
murdering their mother.
her.
Yeah,
it's a wonderful shot.
Yeah, so I love Heavenly Creatures. One of my favorite Peter Jackson movies. What do you guys really liked it too?
I was pleasantly surprised, and I've thought about this film quite frequently since we watched
The Thinker,
it.
Yeah.
It's a really good one. This is one of the first like full-fledged serious films I've seen him do.
I really like It is kind of a unique take because I feel like true crime, there's a lot of true crime that's so obsessed with just the act itself
Yeah.
and the details of the act. And he made it so that by the end of the movie, you can really feel why the girls felt like they didn't have any other options.
This wasn't out of nowhere, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if they would have just had people that cared and understood this never would have happened. So yeah, we'll leave you at parent your children well. How about that?
Yeah. Or they might murder you.
Or they might fucking murder you with a brick. On that note, let's move on to the last film we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, last film on our 5-film list that led up to Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings.
And this is, of course, The Frighteners, classic horror film.
Frighteners.
Horror comedy.
Horror comedy Peter Jackson released on July 19th, 1996. And once again, it was written by both Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh. Were they married at this time?
I am not sure when they got married.
Okay, but it was produced by written by the both of them, and it was produced by Robert Zemeckis.
Zemeckis, yeah, of Back to the Future fame. And what else has Zemeckis done?
Polar Express.
Polar Express, yeah, that weird
all
movie.
his stop motion, or not stop motion,
The weird
all his
motion capture.
motion capture animation movies.
Yeah,
with
he made
the
that
Gotcha.
Beowulf one too, right?
Christmas Carol.
Christmas
and the
Carol.
Christmas Carol.
Yep.
I remember all those.
Yeah, so he's always on the cutting edge of technology. And so Robert Zemeckis also, back in the day, known for being one of the producers of Tales from the Crypt, a fantastic television show. And this was originally, The Frighteners was originally intended to be a spin-off film. But yeah, that featured some cutting-edge special effects by Weta Digital, which had only existed for 2 years at the time.
Nice, very nice. The early days of Weta. So this movie starred Michael J. Fox, whom I'm sure many of us will remember as Marty from Back to the Future.
Of course.
And Teen Wolf.
And of course Teen Wolf. Yeah, we
Of
can't
course.
forget Teen Wolf.
Also starred D. Wallace Stone and Jeffrey Combs, both horror icons.
Oh yeah, and Jeffrey Combs, he's known for mostly his Stuart Gordon films. Stuart Gordon is a fantastic horror director. The Reanimator series, From Beyond, and Castle Freak.
And Wallace Stone, known for The Hills Have Eyes, E.T., The Howling, Cujo, Critters, and Alligator 2, The Mutation.
Which is not very good. I just recently watched it. The original Alligator is fantastic, but Alligator 2 Mutation is not very good.
Also, just not to get too off topic, but as a side note,
This is really funny.
I accidentally clicked on Dee Wallace's website because I was just doing some casual Googling, and she had a like promo for a new book that she'd written called Born, and the promo said, Dee Wallace's Born is a powerful book about how spirituality, brain science, and religion are all teaching the same principles and how you can easily use them in creating your life.
Interesting.
And I think that if there are any loyal listeners, you can donate $150, and I think Danny would use that money to get a healing session with Dee Wallace for 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah. I would love to meet Dee Wallace. I'm a big fan of The Hills Have Eyes, and The Howling is pretty good, too. You know, I'd check it out.
And we were reading some of these testimonials on her website.
Oh, my God. Do you have them up?
I have the one we were talking about.
Read the one we were talking about.
So this is about halfway down her testimonials. It says, after years with full-blown AIDS, I began working with Dee's principles, applying self-direction and choosing joy. I've been told I am now AIDS-free. My count is higher than it has ever been and holding. For me, this is a miracle.
What? Dee Wallace cured AIDS with her program, you guys. So yeah, remember Dee Wallace. She's in this film. Who else is in this film? We got
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
we got to move on from that.
Sorry.
So the film also features Jake Busey.
Jake Busey.
Busey?
And I believe that's Gary Busey's son.
Okay.
I believe it's pronounced Jake Bussy.
Bussy? It's not Bussy. It's definitely not Bussy. He's known for one of my favorite movies. He's in Paul Verhoeven's anti-war masterpiece, Starship Troopers.
Nice.
We all love that one, right?
So the plot of the movie Frighteners. So a successful architect, Frank Bannister, has a close brush with death and is changed forever. Frank can now speak and see the dead. He now uses a band of departed friends to scam people into having their houses quote-unquote cleansed by Frank, now working as a paranormal investigator. When random people in town start to die, all from the same mysterious condition, Frank and his ghost friends come up against a dark spirit from the town's past that is seeking its revenge. Can Frank stop the evil that threatens his town? First, he must confront his own ghosts from the past to untangle this mystery.
Ooh, yeah, this one's pretty plot thick.
Yeah,
This is a pretty plot thick story.
It is heavy on the plot. Yeah, it's a little bit of a mystery.
Yeah, it is. It's a whodunit of sorts. Yeah.
Yeah, with high stakes.
Yeah. So it's
And
gonna,
some fun, quirky ghosts and shit.
Oh yeah, this is a very fun movie. I mean, it's some of the dialogue and stuff is a little dated because it's from the 90s, but like it's still very fun. I really like it.
So let's jump into a little background on this one. So the Frighteners featured cutting-edge digital effects for this era. And again, this era we're talking about is 1996.
And this is again under the special effects supervisor, Sir Richard Taylor.
So the Frighteners had more digital effects shots than any other film at this point in time. And this is mostly due to the ghost characters in this movie. There's a lot of ghost characters. All scenes with ghost characters had to be filmed twice, once with the actors on set and once with the ghost actor on a blue screen.
Yeah, and they had to sync up their motions together. It was incredibly difficult to do.
Okay, so
They
it's
had to be
like
synchronized.
early blue screen layering stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The Grim Reaper character was the most complicated. They originally intended to use practical effects. They were discussing puppets, costumed actors shot at different frame rates,
Okay.
and even discussed doing a water tank puppet to simulate the cloak.
Like flowing in the wind and stuff.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
So it took up to 18 months to complete this movie, The Frighteners. And the makeup for the Judge, the character known as the Judge, acted by John Astin, was designed by a legendary special effects makeup artist, Rick Baker.
Rick, who is like one of the gods of special effects makeup, he was not present to apply the makeup, which was 5 hours of application.
Jesus Christ.
Because he was off working on a film called The Nutty Professor, which I believe he won an Oscar for.
Oh, for real? Nutty Professor won Oscars?
For makeup, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So during the production of this movie, Weta was running behind schedule. So Robert Zemeckis convinced the industrial light and magic mainstay West to, I'm going to pronounce his name wrong.
I think it's Takahashi.
Takahashi.
West Takahashi. They convinced him to come on as an animation supervisor.
Yeah, and West Takahashi is known for a bunch of good movies. Why don't you tell us a few, Joseph?
Known for the Goonies, Back to the Future trilogy, Top Gun, classic.
Classics.
Oh,
Classic film.
Joe trolls me because he professes to love Top Gun, and I fucking hate it because it's work propaganda trash. But
Willow, which is also a really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Never seen it, but I heard it's great.
Yeah, it is a really good movie. Warwick Davis.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade and The Abyss. James Cameron's The Abyss.
Yeah, the score was also done by Danny Elfman.
Danny Elfman. Gotta love a good Danny Elfman.
Yeah, who's incredibly famous, done 1 billion scores, most notably Nightmare Before Christmas, every fucking Tim Burton movie, and Mission Impossible, just to name
Didn't
a
he
few.
also do the Spider-Man movies from the early 2000s?
I think so. Yeah, he was doing everything.
I think it was Danny Elfman and Sam Raimi who did those, yeah.
Yeah, he was into Danny Elfman did a shitload of stuff in that era. So, yeah, let's get into a little bit of discussion of Frighteners. Special effects. Wow, how good were they for 1996?
Yeah, especially for people who apparently were using like the blue screen for the first time for trying to like sync up these shots. They did a really good job. The performances were great.
Yeah, they looked like they're actually talking to those people, which is hard to do. It's really hard to do. It was funny, too, because we actually had a friend drop in on Discord while we were watching. They go, watching some early 2000s CGI? And then we're like, no. This is some mid-90s CGI. It was like, wow, it looks really good for mid-90s.
Yeah, I love John Astin's, which Sean Astin's dad, right?
Yeah, that's Sean Astin's dad, who also played Gomez on the Addams Family back in the day.
Nice.
Yeah, so he's kind of a horror icon in himself too, actually.
He looks great in this movie.
Yeah, the Rick Baker makeup. Yeah,
some questionable stuff in the museum scene.
yeah, he does some
But
questionable things.
Yeah.
he looks
Yeesh.
great.
Yeah, he looks great, and John Astin does a great job too. He's one of my favorite characters in the movie.
Also, this isn't CGI, I guess, but I love when Jeffrey Combs reveals his body.
Oh,
And he's like, my body is a roadmap of pain. And it's just cult symbols and scars,
Yeah.
and it's just...
I love how he has a problem with women yelling at him too.
Yeah.
Oh, and I don't know if I ever told you
yeah.
the lore behind that, Joel. I think I heard this in an interview or read this somewhere.
Okay.
It's because he was infiltrated a witches coven as an FBI agent. He had PTSD from the women that were witches.
All right. All right. I just thought it was such a hilarious quirk for his character. Like anytime a woman yells, he just like can't handle.
He
He just
freaks
like
out.
completely.
Yeah, Jeffrey
Breaks
Combs. He chews scenery in this fucking movie. He's like,
so
yeah.
well on that
The
character.
interrogation scene where he's interrogating Michael J. Fox
Yeah.
is so good. And the
Yeah.
cameras, it's just like these sideways angles of his eyes.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, so well directed, so well edited, and Jeffrey Combs just fucking
He
chews.
sells it.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, Dee Wallace Stone, obviously she's in a bunch of horror movies too, starting with The Hills Have Eyes, which is a very famous horror film. Yeah, the use of horror icons. Peter Jackson loves old horror films, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So there's also, this movie features some mass shooting scenes, which kind of hit differently today
Yeah.
than they did back in the 90s, I think.
Especially for us Americans, it's a little.
Yeah, it was
little different.
Yeah, it was a little fucked up. I mean, like, I'm used to fucked up things, but like
Mm-hmm.
really real shit like that is kind of different, and they hit a little harder nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
But this was because they were, of course, inspired by Charles Starkweather, the famous spree killer in the 1950s.
Gotcha. Okay.
I love how there was a bunch of serial killer lore in this movie as well.
There really was. Yeah.
Yeah, they mention a bunch of different serial killers. Yeah, they mention Andrei Chikatilo, remember, by not by name, but they say that Russian guy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh yeah. So this was so much fun.
Yeah,
There-
and they tried very hard to get this PG-13 rating, but it just it wouldn't go.
Didn't pan out.
And they're so, like, Jake Busey is just such a gleeful serial killer,
Yeah,
too.
Jake
Yeah,
Busey is
he is.
great.
Just
as
like-
the Johnny
he
character.
sold, he sold that real
He's
well.
just
Yeah.
so concerned about how many people he's killed. That's all he cares about.
Yep, that's all he wants is them numbers. So we got a little thing from IMDb here about the PG-13 rating.
So from IMDb, it said that the film was originally made to be PG-13. However, the MPAA thought the film was too intense for the rating and gave it an R. No matter how much Peter Jackson would edit the movie to try to get to the desired rating, the ratings board would keep it R, including citing some reasons like a door was shot by a gun too many times. Jackson, being angry that he toned himself down for nothing, changed a death scene in the movie to be more graphic in order to make the rating feel more deserving.
Do we know which death scene that was?
That's probably when Jeffrey Combs gets his head blown off with a shotgun.
That's what I was thinking.
Yes, that would make sense.
And then the ghost head is there. That's such a funny bit. I love that. There's like a confused ghost head replacing it.
But as a side note, if you what's it called? This film is not yet rated.
Oh, I love that documentary.
Yeah, the MPAA is very.
We've actually talked about how we hate the MPAA on the
Oh,
show
heck
Fuck
before.
the MPAA.
Yeah.
Fuck
Fuck
that
the-
shit.
yeah, KOT says fuck the MPAA.
They're awful.
I believe at one point I said I hate you and you wish you would go away to the MPAA on this show.
So a few things that I thought were kind of funny about this movie. I thought it was funny when early on in the movie when the ghosts are like discussing their bit that they do to get money or whatever.
Yeah, they're scam.
Their scam, and the ghosts are always like the babies, like the little babies, the kids there are always in
The
for
kids get
scaring
it,
the
yeah.
parents. They always love scaring the parents.
I love that scene too.
I love the drill sergeant from the graveyard, which I mistakenly referenced from Brain Dead.
Yeah.
But
Brain
it
Dead.
was this movie.
Yeah, that's Arlie Ermy from Mail Call on the History Channel if you're a warmongering
Oh,
kid like I
yeah.
was. Or he's also in Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, that's the.
And then another scene I really liked was one of the main characters' boyfriend who dies, the conceited guy who goes to his own funeral.
Yeah, that
Oh,
guy is
yeah.
funny.
That was so fucking hilarious. He's just sitting there weeping. Like, this is a goddamn tragedy.
God, I was so young.
I was so young. And then the priest just reads off the most generic
bullshit.
ever. And he's like, that's right. He wouldn't lie at a time like this.
Yeah. Because it was like everybody at this funeral knows you were kind of a piece of shit,
kind
dude.
of a piece of shit. Yeah. Oh yeah, The Frighteners, quality movie. I really
Classic film, almost like a family film in a way. Like
It really,
if you got a
one
fucked
really
up
made
family,
me,
you
this
know.
film made me laugh a lot. It was great.
Yeah, this is a very good.
This
film.
one actually isn't terribly gross. I mean, as we just read over with his
No.
attempt to get it rated PG-13, it just didn't end up being super gross.
fairly
It's just-
restrained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very restrained.
If you were to dip your toes in early Peter Jackson films, this would, if you're squeamish, I think this is a
Oh
good
yeah, check out
starting
Frighteners.
point.
Yeah,
This is
100%.
This is a great starting point. Yeah.
Yeah, check out Frighteners first. Yeah.
I think Brain Dead is my favorite though.
Really?
Oh
I
yeah,
love
Brain
Brain
Dead is
Dead.
Brain
Oh.
Dead is the king of horror films. It's fucking awesome. But yeah, some final thoughts. You liked Brain Dead best. I liked Brain Dead best. What about you, Joel? Out of this list of 5,
I think I've seen Brain Dead a couple times, and it's definitely like iconic for me, especially
Yeah.
going back to being one of like the early horror movies that you guys exposed me to
yeah,
in terms of gore. That's what really got me jaded to gore.
yeah.
And I was finally able to watch gory shit after that.
So yeah,
But I think my favorite one on this list was probably Heavenly Creatures.
yeah, great film. Heavenly Creatures. Yeah,
I was just so pleasantly surprised by that film. It was a lot more, especially after watching all of his other like quirky, kind of gross, kind of funny movies.
yeah,
That one kind of took me by surprise.
yeah. And I would recommend all 5 of these films. Honestly,
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
they're all really fun. Check them out. Brain Dead is something is a 1 in a million type of film that you'll never see again.
That Brain Dead, we watch that every year in October.
Oh, we love it. Brain Dead. I think I have 2 copies of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun to watch these sort of in order and kind of, because you can really tell his progression as a
Yeah.
filmmaker.
Yeah.
And
And how that led to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can see a lot of it come out in The Lord of the Rings.
And hopefully this insight, just some final thoughts here. Hopefully this episode kind of gave you some insight into that, the early films of Peter Jackson that led to him making the Lord of the Rings. And hopefully this will inspire you to see some of these films and have a spooky yuki good time this October. It has been a long time dream of mine to start a horror podcast, which we talked about on here before. So yeah, share this with your horror-loving friends if they're not necessarily Tolkien fans, but like horror and Peter Jackson would like to listen to this episode. Let them know.
Yeah, we're trying to gauge interest for getting that horror podcast going.
Yeah. So let us know if that's something that you would listen to, or know people who would listen to it. Because we're basically trying to convince Joe. He's the last obstacle here into doing this project. So convince Joe that you liked him here today and that you'd like to hear more from him.
Yeah, we want to have him back.
He's at Bystander on the Discord. Harass him.
I think I'm done. I'm gonna be like if Orson Welles had stopped after Citizen Kane.
Oh, yeah.
This is as good as it'll get. I'm done now.
Then we wouldn't have Touch of Evil, though.
Yeah, that is true. Touch of
See?
Evil is a great movie.
See?
Not as good. Well,
I
we'll
don't
save
know.
it. Save it for a different.
That's a different podcast.
That's a whole nother episode. But also, on this note, happy Halloween, everybody.
Yeah, happy friggin' Halloween.
We hope you guys enjoy spooky season as much as we do.
We love spooky season. Have a spooky yuki good time. Eat, drink, and be merry. Party like Tolkien characters.
And that's the best kind of partying.
yeah. Embrace the creepy, the spooky, the ooky, the macabre.
And in honor of Peter Jackson, the straight up gross.
The gross, exactly. Then the nasty, this creepy, the crawly, this oozy,
the silly, the...
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's about all we have for our Peter Jackson episode. Hope this was really different, and I'm glad we got to do it.
Yeah, this was a fun episode. Again, welcome back to Keep on Tolkien for Season 6.
Season 6. Yeah.
Here we go. This is going to be a good season. So we are very excited about next episode, not only because it's episode 69, but also because...
I just, oh, yeah.
It is a Peter Jackson episode.
Yeah.
He would have laughed.
You would have laughed, too.
You would have laughed. But so our next episode, 69, is going to be all about the Haggerty Museum of Art in Milwaukee, their exhibit called J.R.R. Tolkien, The Art of the Manuscript. We went and visited
Which we
that.
went to.
We went and visited that exhibit recently. We bought the catalog that went along with it, and we ate that shit up. We were in there for hours, literally hours. And we have a lot of content coming your way from that experience, so tune in.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening to KOT Podcast. Thanks to our guest, Joe Vasky,
Yeah, thanks for
longtime
coming on,
friend,
man.
collaborator. Come back.
Yeah, thanks for it. This was fun.
This was really fun. Thank you to all of our patrons on Patreon. If you want to subscribe to Patreon to help support us, it's www.patreon.com/KOT podcast.
Yeah, Patreon helps us bring you that great new content with the same level of quality you've come to respect. Subscribing can also unlock some exclusive content. Patreon, it really helps us a lot. In fact, like we mentioned earlier, that Haggerty Museum of Art exhibit, our patrons are the whole reason we were able to make that trip.
Yep, exactly. They subsidize a huge chunk of that trip for us.
Mm-hmm. So donate to the Patreon and you'll get more of that super fun content.
Yeah, and if Patreon's not really your speed and you want to do a one-time donation, that's cool too. We have PayPal and other services. We can make it happen. Just hit us up on social media or email.
Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts. It'll be at that platform.com/keepontolkien, and stay up to date with all of our newest videos, and give us a nice review if you like us.
Yes. Join our Discord. There will be a link to that in the description of this episode.
Link in the description.
Or any of our YouTube videos. They should all have links by now. I think we've gone through them all and added the link. Follow us on Twitter at KOT Podcast.
Yeah, and if you're a Facebook user, follow us on Facebook. That's facebook.com/official Keep On Tolkien. And if you're on the Facebook page, go ahead and join the KOT Talk group that's there as well. Go ahead and join the discussion with fans and share fun memes and just discuss with our listeners. It's a great community.
Yeah, join us. Also follow us on Instagram at Keep On Tolkien Podcast. And don't forget to check out our new merch store. That's keep-on-tolkien-podcast.tmill.com. Check it out.
Yeah.
A lot of cool shirts on there, guys. I'm serious. Not fucking with you.
Yeah, new designs coming all the time.
Yeah.
Go check it out. Support your favorite podcast.
Yeah. It would help us out a whole bunch. Thank you. Yes. Well, I am and have been Danny J.
I'm Joel N.
I'm Joe Vasky.
And Joe Vasky, the great Joe Vasky. And together, the combination of us are...
Keep on Tolkien.
Keep on Tolkien. Do you want to do the hour in Tulava? I say this at the end of every episode. It's a sign off. You want to do it? Just scream it.
Arentulava.
Close enough.